How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today, very original content, but very good content as well, so please hit the like button, subscribe if you are new. Of course, let's get to 3,000 subscribers, but the point of this video is something that I think every football YouTuber does. We're going to react to our predictions that we did at the start of the season, and that's always quite embarrassing. So let's get on with it. Let's go in alphabetical order. Bournemouth. I said third, and they came second, as Bournemouth fans like to remind Forest fans. Congratulations, you're second the entire season. I don't really know why it's such an unreal achievement to beat Forest to that. They were the final team to lose in the Championship this season, so they had a really strong first half of the year in particular. And really, for a team that finished second, they did drop off a bit, but obviously not enough. My worry for them next season in the Premier League is the manager. Is Scott Parker really good enough to keep that team in the Premier League? Counting his first stint at Fulham as well, or his first stint in the Premier League with Fulham, he's got 2 relegations out of 2 seasons in the Premier League. So I don't really think he's going to be all too good with Bournemouth unless he's learned his lesson. And straight away, second team I'm going to talk about, this is really, really bad. Barnsley. I said 12th. They came 24th. I didn't think they're going to drop off that much. I thought, okay, playoffs is a miracle, but surely they're not going to go and get relegated, are they? Even though it wouldn't really be a huge surprise if they did, because no one expected them to get the playoffs in the first place. Everyone sees Barnsley as a relegation scrapper. But the fact that they lose Dane Murphy to Forest, they lose Ishmael, they lose Moet, they lose a lot of key personnel, that really screwed them over that much. They've got a pretty good record when it comes to League One though, so I would expect them to probably at least be in the top 6. Only will they plummet even more? I don't think they will. I do see the likes of Helik and Callum Styles leaving because they're probably the only two players that are worth actually playing in the Championship next season. Birmingham. That was awful, wasn't it? I said 15th and they came 20th. I've literally written in my notes here on my phone, business as usual. I think that kind of sums it up really. The issues off the pitch seriously are something they need to be sorting out, because we've seen these protests at St Andrews this season with the masks and whistles. It's not a nice sight to see. I watched that game against Sheffield United where they did that, and it was really strange to see. And there have been many protests this season, and they need to sort that out. The squad needs a clear out. They can't even afford to keep one of their few bright sparks in Lyle Taylor because they can't afford his wages apparently. So, yeah, there's a lot going on at Birmingham. But really, to be honest, no, there's not much going on. And that's the problem. They need to do something. Blackburn. Now, I had my doubts about Blackburn. I said they'd be 14th. They came 8th. The reason why I said they'd be 14th is because they lost Adam Armstrong. They lost Harvey Elliott. I didn't think Tony Mowbray was really good enough anymore. I thought maybe he'd run his course. Blackburn fans, some of them anyway, thought that as well. They had a really poor defence last season, came 15th, so I thought I had every right to put them in 14th. But they spent most of the season in the playoffs, or at least in and around it. They were second at one stage when we beat them, Forest. That was an unreal result because Blackburn were in second, and that was in February. So, yeah. And that, to be honest, was roughly when they were starting to fall off, and it never really got any better. I doubt Tony Mowbray's going to be there next season. He's been there for 5 years, and he did say in an interview recently himself that he doesn't think he's going to be here because he's not had a contract offer. So it will be interesting to see what happens next season at Rovers. Will they get a new manager? Just to intuit for a second, if this is actually true, and Blackburn Rovers genuinely think, yep, let's appoint Chris Hughton after 5 years of Tony Mowbray, then my sincere, deepest condolences to every single Blackburn Rovers fan. Blackpool, I said 20th and they came 16th, which just feel a little bit false really, because at times this season they have been a little bit higher than that. Not by anything special or anything, but they've been like 11th to 15th, so it's not a huge drop off, but 16th does feel like they've finished lower than where they've been most of the season. However, I'm sure Blackpool fans would have just loved it if they survived this season, and they've never once been in relegation worry. On to Bristol City. I've written really, really simple notes for Bristol City. Standard, boring and stale, and they need a dramatic change to happen. It seems very, very repetitive One minute they get a really good result, the next minute they're really quite embarrassing. I don't see Nigel Pearson being the future, or at least a positive future, because he's been there a year. He's took them from basically 17th to 17th in a year. The squad does need quite a big clear out, and you can quite easily see someone like Semenyo, who has been really good this year, one of the few bright sparks. Andres Weimann as well, you could see them leaving to better teams. Right, so I said Barnsley was bad. This is even worse. And the funny thing is, it's not even the worst on this list. Cardiff, I said 6th place and they came 18th. A huge underachievement. They didn't have a star-studded squad, but they should have been really challenging for the top end of the table. For them to finish 18th is really disappointing, and apart from a little upturn in form in late January, February time, it's been a really disappointing season for Cardiff, and they're going to need a huge summer to get back on track. Coventry City, I said 19th. I don't really know why, to be honest, and they came 12th. Now it's frustrating because I did an early prediction video and a final prediction video, and they're the ones that I'm reacting to. The early predictions, I said they'd be 14th. The second one, I said 19th, and I actually said in that video, I don't know why I'm dropping them off. It was because of other teams, I think, but for some reason I doubted Coventry that much, and they've never once been close to relegation. In fact, the first half of the season they were battling for the top 6, so that really makes it even worse. And I think based off that, 12th is going to be a little bit disappointing for Coventry fans, but ultimately it has been a fantastic year for them, one that they probably did not expect. A second season in the Championship, and they've had a year like this, and you do fear that it's the old adage where these top players from these sides will leave. I could easily see Gustavo Hamer going, a player that I rate very highly when he came to Forest, of course, and we beat them 2-0. I thought he was one of the standout players for them. In the first half, Coventry were really good, I thought, and he played a big part in it. He's already been linked to Brighton this summer, and even though Callum O'Hare signed a new deal in January, how many times do we see that? A player signs a new deal and they still end up leaving. So I think the biggest transfer that they could make this summer is to keep hold of their best players and then add quality. Wayne Rooney's Derby County, I said 24th and they came in 23rd. Under the circumstances, they did a pretty good job, but ultimately they still got relegated. And the biggest issue for Derby is the off-the-field stuff. They need to get this owner sorted as soon as possible. Mel Morris, what a fantastic owner he was. Fulham, the first one that I've got correct, and what a surprise. I said first they won the league, of course. Mitrovic got 43 goals. They walked the league. They've been top since about October. They're going to come back down again next season after spending about 80 million on transfers, signing about 5 loanees, and then they'll walk the Championship the season after next. And repeat, really. I'm ashamed. Huddersfield Town, 23rd. They came 3rd. That's 20 places, David. Okay, Windows. All I can really say is a huge apology to Carlos Corbehan. The reason why I said they'd be low down is that the worst defence in the Championship last season. He was only in his second year as a manager. He didn't really do that well in his first. They didn't really, or so I thought, didn't really do that well in the transfer window. But Sorban Thomas has been unreal. Free signing from the National League last year. They get players like Lees and Pearson in on frees from Sheffield Wednesday and Luton, and they've done wonders. You know, O'Brien in midfield, they've got a really good team there. Very good team. And yeah, it isn't as good as like a Fulham or a Bournemouth, but it's still a good side. And it strikes me a little bit to what it is with Forest. It just wasn't being used correctly. And even though they haven't changed the manager, they've reassessed and they've gone again, and fair play to them. They have got a really strange set of fans, I won't lie. But other than that, genuinely well done. Hull City, 21st, I said. They were actually 19th. They did the bare minimum, really, didn't they? Everyone, you know, would have probably said the bare minimum they can do is survive. And they did that. And I never really ever saw Hull going down too much this season. They never really looked like they were going to go down. They've been near it, but they've been near it all season, haven't they? But they always looked relatively comfortable. I do think the future's quite exciting, though, with their new owners from Turkey. They've got big plans for the summer. I'm hearing from Hull fans that they might even be spending a lot of money on about 10, 12 players, which is a bit of a gamble because you never know whether they're going to gel in time or not. But ultimately, at least they have got something to look forward to, unlike the last few seasons. Luton Town, I said 9th, and they actually came in 6th place. Given the budget that Luton have, it's an unreal achievement to get the playoffs in the 3rd year in the Championship when they were League 2 just 5-6 years ago. You know, it's an unbelievable achievement. And yes, okay, they play some of the most anti-football I've ever seen, but it gets results. It gets results, and you know, I may have just slagged off Luton, but in the same sentence, I backed it up because, you know, ultimately, if your tactics work and they get results, I don't think anyone's going to be really bothered, are they? Only the second one I've got correct here, Middlesbrough. I said 7th, and they did come 7th. Ultimately, if they had Chris Wilder from the start of the season, they probably would have got the playoffs. However, ultimately, they did end this season really quite disappointingly with some really poor results. You know, the last day of the season they had to win to stand any chance of getting the playoffs, and they lose 4-1 to a team with nothing to play for. Millwall, quite a good season for them really. The last 2 seasons they've been in and around the playoffs, and they've done exactly the same this year. But I do feel this year it's probably the closest they've got to actually doing it, even though they did come 9th, and I said 11th, by the way. And I rate their side. They've got some great players in there. You know, Jake Cooper, when I did my 1 player per club XI, which I probably should have just done as a team of the season, really, which would have made more sense. I was very close to putting him in the side. Matt Namara as well at right back. I'd never really heard of him before this season, to be honest, but whenever I've watched Millwall play, I genuinely really like that lad. I think he's pretty good. Bradshaw's got multiple goals this season as well. Obviously, Jed Wallace, and they've got to be trying to keep him, but it's all but certain that he will be going. Nottingham Forest. Now, bear in mind, Chris Hughton was here at the start of the season, so this prediction seems really generous. I said 13th. We came 4th. So, start of the season, I looked really stupid putting us 13th, and we came 4th ultimately. So, we've gone from one extreme to the other. Really stupid because we're that crap, to really stupid because we're doing that well. That's an understatement. Unbelievably well. I'm not going to go into too much detail because obviously I talk about Forest a lot on this channel. But yeah, the fact that I put us 13th is pretty funny because I actually had faith in Houghton getting us as high as 13th. Peterborough. Now, I had a feeling I'd get a few correct in this video, but I did not think Peterborough would be the one in terms of the exact position. I think everyone probably said they'll go down, but I didn't think they'd be the 3rd worst. I said 22nd, and they were 22nd. Not enough quality, ultimately, and they showed quite a bit of fight, but ultimately they were just nowhere near good enough for this division, and you probably would expect with Grant McCann there, he's more than good enough for League One. They should be at the very least getting top 6. Preston, I said 17th, they came 13th. More of the same, really. Like, it must be so unbelievably dull supporting Preston. You go from beating Bournemouth to getting hammered by someone you should not be losing to, or just losing to someone. You know, it's just not good enough, really. And there needs to be a real review, I guess, of what their vision actually is. You know, are they just happy to stay in the Championship every single season? Because I did not see Preston North End in the Premier League anytime soon. I don't really see them in League One though, so they're just here. Like, you know, Preston, Birmingham, Bristol, they're just there. But I do think that Ryan Lowe's a very good manager to have around because, you know, he has at the very least inspired a bit of belief into that side, and maybe from the start of the season he might actually do something with this side because he's shown that he's good enough for it. QPR, I said 5th, they came 11th. Injuries completely killed their season. I know it is an excuse, but Mark Warburton recently said in a press conference he listed every single injury, and I just thought, wow, I knew it was bad, but that's unbelievable. How do you get an entire back line of goalkeepers injured at once? That is genuinely, what are the chances of that happening? And you get Willock injured as well. You did sign Jeff Hendrick, which didn't really help yourself, to be quite honest, but still, it's disappointing because, you know, they had numbers of seasons where they were just mediocre relegation fodder, to be quite honest. Last season they had a very good second half of the year, and ultimately the fact that they were in the playoffs and most of this season, then they came lower than last season in 11th. it's really disappointing. It's really disappointing. And getting rid of Mark Warburton, for me, is a really bad decision. He may not have been the best thing with Forest, but I thought he was doing a pretty good job with QPR, and I don't really see anyone doing a better job than him. Reading, I said 16th, they came 21st. Just unbelievably dire, poor, disappointing season for them. But more of the same, really, apart from last season where they were, chasing playoffs and were in it for most of it. They've been in this kind of situation pretty much as long as I've known Reading FC, and this will be much to the delight of Bray if he's watching this. Sheffield United, I think a bit like Forest, really. I don't want to keep relating everything to Forest, but it's my team. I'm going to do that. But it's worth pointing out, both us and Sheffield had really poor starts to the season, and now we're both going to play each other in the playoffs. Testament to both teams. Obviously, Sheffield were Prem side. They had to adapt to being in the Championship again, but they have done, and it's not easy to do that. And getting rid of Jukanovic so early on was a stroke of genius, seemingly. It didn't look it, but Paul Heckingbottom's done a really good job. And even if they don't go up this season, I think they'll be right up there next year because their squad is star-studded for this division, and they're going to lose players, of course, but that team's great for this level. Swansea, 10th place, I said. 15th is where they actually came. 2 back-to-back playoff campaigns to a 15th place finish. Incredibly dull and average and mediocre from an outsider's point of view, that is. And it's weird because Swansea fans seem to rate Russell Martin, and I don't really understand why. I know you watch him more than I do. You watch him every single week. His team play anyway. I don't. I watch him sporadically, but I just don't understand why. It just appears, okay, yes, he plays a lot of possession football, but possession does not win you matches. If it won you matches, you would have won the league. West Brom, I said 2nd, they came 10th. Really not good enough at all for West Brom with the calibre of players they have, but West Brom fans can't stand this team. From what I can tell of them, they really cannot stand it at all, and I'm sorry, Ishmael was not the right fit. Then you go and hire Steve Bruce. Christ above. Seriously, you thought that was the right move. You thought, right, we're in danger. We need a saviour. Who are we going to call? Steve Bruce. He is not good enough for that team, or quite frankly, Championship level. And that might be harsh, but I just do not rate Steve Bruce in the slightest. He literally, I'm going to put it in if I can find it. He literally said in an interview, the ball was a problem. During a game, that was one of the things he said after a game. The ball was a problem. You're playing football. That is a Houghton-esque line. My God. Apologies to Stoke City fans, I did not include you in the actual video. I'm not sure if that was just a reflection on how boring your season was, or it was just me genuinely making a mistake and forgetting to talk about you. But I said 8th for Stoke this season, and you actually came 14th. A very disappointing, underwhelming year. And I'm starting to think, is Michael O'Neill the long-term solution? He's already been with you a number of years, and even when you have started to look up, you've ultimately failed with him. And the fact that one of your best players, Lewis Baker, is ultimately alone probably isn't the most encouraging thing, and injuries haven't helped you out at all. The likes of Tyrese Campbell cannot stay fit, but ultimately you have got a decent side. It just needs that little bit more to take it to that next level, and I'm just not sure if Michael O'Neill can do that. Anyway, that was my reaction to my Championship predictions. If you did enjoy this, of course, please do me a favour, hit the like button, subscribe to Rads if you're new. Can we get to 3,000 before the end of the playoffs? I think we can. We've gained a lot of subs recently. So if we all motor, if you all help me out, I think we can do it. I really do. Especially if we go up. I think that's very doable. And it would be really, really appreciated. Thanks for watching, everyone. And I'll see you very soon. I should be live on Wednesday for the Youth Cup final live watch along. I've not done a watch along to a game in over a year. So it'd be good to do that again. And to a really special occasion as well.